Well, welcome everyone. Super excited to have everyone for the second Build Your Career Forum, our first time virtually. COVID has just made things a little challenging, but we're getting through it, and we've found that these sessions have been very informative, so appreciate all the speakers and all the students joining us today. A couple things, if you are a student and you would like to turn your camera on, that would be awesome. We'd love to see who we're talking to. Don't worry if your hair is a mess or you just woke up, we don't care. We just like to see your face. Secondly, I'm going to put my information in the chat, so you'll have that. I always like to let the students know that as we go through these sessions, if you have a question or you want to connect to one of the speakers, if you're in school still or you're getting ready to graduate, you know, there are ways that the Home Builders Office can help you. We have the connections, so we can try to get your foot in the door for some of these places, whether it be a school or a company. That is my job. I'm here to help you, so I'll put that information in the chat. I think, did I miss anything, ladies? I think that's it. I've done this so many times, I forget what I'm saying. But I'm going to turn it over to Kelsey. She's going to moderate the hour, and we'll go from there. Thanks so much.
Thanks, Julie, and hello, everyone. I'm Kelsey King. I serve as the Admissions and Community Outreach Coordinator for Scott Community College. And today I have the privilege of introducing Nick Kinzenbaw and Dan Marine. Nick started Kinzenbaw Construction in 2011. At 6, he was working on woodworking projects with his dad, and from there continued designing beautiful, functional, and cost-effective living areas and workspaces. Also joining us is Dan Marine with Oak Tree Homes. Dan is an Air Force veteran of 14 years who, with his wife, opened Oak Tree Homes in 2005. Dan has a BS and MA in political science and an MBA. Oak Tree Homes is a full-service design build firm. So thank you for joining us, and I'll turn it over to both of you to talk a little bit more about what you do for builders and remodelers.
Dan, you have your mic off again.
Dan, are you there? Can you hear us? Can you unmute yourself? There you go.
Yeah, I'm here. I just didn't know if I was first or not. Sorry.
Oh, that's okay. Go ahead. Take it away, Dan.
Excellent. So Dan Marine, Oak Tree Homes. I know this is a video session and some of you are not watching real time. So I'm at a job site right now, and I thought it might be interesting to walk around and see what we do a little bit. So Oak Tree Homes, we're a full service residential builder remodeler company. One of the questions that came in is, what's the difference between building and remodeling? In general, everything is building. Remodeling just happens to work on structures that are existing, while new construction is what we would call it, would be building new residential homes. And then commercial remodeling or commercial construction would be the same, just in a commercial business. So I am on a commercial remodeling project right now. We do specialized remodeling work. Here in Walcott, Iowa, if you can see my video, we're at the Walcott Veterinary Clinic. And this building's about 60 years old, and we're giving it a major facelift and a significant rework on the inside. So our company, we have 2 carpenters, 2 project managers, and an estimator full-time on staff. I'm going to crawl up the roof here and see if how my carpenters are getting along, and then we'll go inside and talk to some of our other trade partners. So we put this little rooflet on the front to redefine the entry, and our carpenters cut the new roof into the old roof just to kind of see some of the work they're doing. Here's Jeremy up top and Devin on this side. So sorry for the wind, but part of the work we're doing on the inside involves bringing out new heating and ventilation systems. So they're just putting what we call roof boots, these little black things on the roof, cutting them in, making sure the roof is patched back correctly so it holds water. And then the exhaust from the inside will come up through these boots and go straight out. Some other examples of what we're doing up here. We've got new plumbing pipes sticking up through the roof. If we crawl down the backside, some of the other things we had to deal with on this job, they're still running the business at the same time. So we helped them bring a big storage container in to put all their supplies and stuff in. And we're staging our materials out back. We have to get rid of trash. We have porta johns, just all the logistics that go with having several people on site we're taking care of. So I, as the general contractor, if you will, coordinate all of those pieces and get them to work together. And then Devin and Jeremy, they've been with us for quite a while now. Devin over 10 years, Jeremy over 4 years. These good folks to talk to down the road if you have any questions. In general, as a carpenter, you probably figure you're starting as a laborer, often in the $10 to $12 range. But if you know what you're doing, you're motivated, it doesn't take long to move up into the $15 to $18 range, and you can easily be earning 22, 23-ish if you've proven you can manage jobs, if you've proven you'll be accountable that way. So there's Neil. Neil's actually an electrician. So we'll wander inside, just get a feel for what's going on in here. So this building used to be 2 sides. One side was a garage, the other side was the vet clinic, and we're rearranging it completely to create a new entryway, little desk area here, and then 3 exam rooms. Kind of interesting. What Devin and Jeremy are working on upstairs is where the exhausts will be for these vents in here. So as a builder, as a general contractor, a lot of coordination. You see electricians running around. Let's see. Dana Wells here and Craig Hackett are 2 electricians on this project. We rely on folks like that, plumbers, heating and cooling folks to take care of everything for us. So Dana, you got a minute? Excellent. You're talking to basically a recording. So what do you think of working in skilled trades? I mean, you work with your hands for a living. Is it worth it? You like it?
I like it. I can't sit at a desk, so I gotta do something now to keep moving.
Right. Feed your kids with it. I mean, decent life that way.
Yep. It's bills. Harder you work, the more you get to make.
That's cool. Good. And have you always worked for yourself, or?
No. I was employed from 99 till 2007. 6 is when I went self-employed.
Which is better?
A lot less headache working for somebody, but well, back to the thing, you get a little chance to make a little better money if working for yourself, but it's all about time and effort you want to put into it.
Excellent. Cool. Thanks. That's Dana, great example. Out of high school, went to work as an electrician, got his training, got his education, and then started his own business. Has been doing that ever since. One thing I really like about being in business for myself is I have a lot of flexibility on my time. Right now we have 4 kids, so if I need to go take care of one of them or tend to something that way, I've got the ability to work a little later, work a little harder, that kind of thing, and it works out. Anyhow, just looking around again, we put a couple bathrooms in this project. What are some of the challenges of what we do? Here's a good example. So I'm standing in the new bathroom, but right there is the old furnace that's still in the way of finishing the bathroom, because the new furnace over here is just now being installed. They're about to fire up the new furnace, which means we can turn off the old furnace. That's a challenge of remodeling. We can't just take it out and start from scratch, because if you go over here and look on the other side of the door, they're still running the business. So one challenge of remodeling is actually working in a space that people occupy. This commercial space is interesting, but often it's somebody's master bedroom, somebody's garage, that sort of thing. Let's see, any questions that come up right now? If we have a few people online, actually.
Dan, what are the hours that you work?
Great. The joke is we work half days and we get to decide we want to work the first 12 or the second 12. There's nothing in life that doesn't take hard work. And a lot of times a building is a little bit feast or famine. When it's cold out, when it's windy out, you can't work outside. Maybe your hours are shorter. When the daylight is shorter, the hours are shorter. But in the summer, it's very much go, go, go. I've decided to structure my business so I can run it at about 45 hours a week. I think you should expect that if you're going to get ahead in life, you're probably working between 43 and 50 hours a week. So that's probably average. There are weeks when it's crunch time that you push 55, 60. But in general, our carpenters, right now we're targeted toward about 42 hours a week because we're pretty busy. Gives them a little overtime they like, but still we don't tend to work weekends unless it's something special, which gives them a good, I think, ability to balance family and work life. So depends on what you're doing. Some of the trades, say concrete, masonry, those trades that are driven by weather much more, will work a lot more hours in the summer, and then they'll work hardly at all in the winter. So a little bit of it depends on what trade you're in.
With this
Let's
next question,
see.
I'm sure it just depends on the scope of your project, but how long does it take to do a remodel or to build a home?
Yeah, you hit the nail on the head there. Depends on the scope of the project. That said, for a new home, we average 5 to 8 months, depending on complexity, from start to finish. And we probably have about 2 to 4 months of planning and development ahead of that. On a remodel, really depends. This remodel here is about a 5-month project. We've got about 3.5 on the first phase, and then they will move out of where they're working right now, and they'll move into the new space so we can then go remodel the old space. One thing that's kind of interesting, got my little iPad here that I'll show you just real quick. People think carpenters are just on work pounding nails doing that kind of thing, but you'll find that most of the trades these days are pretty technical. You got to have a pretty good background of communication technology. Here's just an example. We use an online project management program. Here's the schedule for this project. We're sitting here in November, actually. Our project managers schedule everything out, trade by trade, step by step, so we can manage the project accordingly. So if I look at this week, I can see that interior doors are coming into the week. I should have an inspection coming into the week. I know they did this gas vac rough-in. So the ability to read, write, understand, basic communication that way is important for our project managers and our carpenters. And everybody has a smartphone, and we're embracing technology that way. We have very few written plans on site anymore. So yeah, this job is supposed to be done with phase 2 somewhere towards the end of January. We started about the 1st of October. Let's see, what other questions were out there?
Actually, Dan, can we take a minute? And we have Nick on the line now, so can we bring him in and
awesome.
introduce him
Go
again?
for it.
Fantastic.
Thank you.
Nick, welcome.
Hello. Sorry, guys. It's some issues.
It's a technical. We love the technical.
That's why I'm a carpenter.
I mean, we love having all this Google stuff. We're having so much fun with it.
Yeah.
So Nick, if you want to go ahead, I've already introduced you and did your bio, so if you just want to tell us a little bit more about yourself and what it is that you do, that would be great.
Yeah. So again, I'm Nick Kinzenbaw. I've kind of been infatuated with building and just woodworking and carpentry since I was a little kid. My dad kind of had he wasn't in the trades, but he had a little shop. So growing up, we would do different projects there. And then I started in about 2000 with Terry Knutson building custom homes, and went off to college. I've got an associate's degree in construction and business management from Kirkwood. And I kind of worked across Wisconsin after I was married in Iowa City, and then we finally started our business in 2011. And we build custom homes. We do remodels as well. We do some light commercial work. So we'll do just smaller build outs in an existing building, or we'll take on, you know, full-size projects to build and do build outs for other builders, or for other commercial projects. So it just kind of depends on what comes our way. Being a young business growing, we take on a lot, but I'd say that I'm geared mainly towards the new custom homes. And lately, with interest rates the way they are, there's a lot of people really wanting to build, so it's been pretty busy. I guess that's kind of a little bit of what we do. And I really enjoy I'm a hands-on guy. I really enjoy the trim aspect of it a lot, and then I still like to frame with the guys too. So.
Which do you find is more challenging? Is it the remodels or is it the new homes?
Oh, definitely the remodels. Because there's just a lot of, when someone's in their home, and I totally understand it because it's something I love as well, but they've lived in it, they've experienced it, so it's very, they're very connected to it. There's a lot of feelings in a remodel. There's a lot of challenges because you're a lot of times dealing with other people's work that maybe wasn't done the way you did it, or maybe it was done to code 30 years ago, but it isn't anymore, and you want to make that right. You want to fix the things that were maybe damaged from weather, the elements, just misuse, or maybe make it up to code now, or change it to fit the people's needs. So you'll have challenges that way, or they're living there a lot of times, and you want to be courteous of that. You know, control dust, control waste. Maybe you're removing something that's now toxic, asbestos, mold, things like that. So there are more challenges, I think, in that. But there's also there are challenges in both, but I'd say they're in the remodel side. Yeah, so that'd be my experience, I think, with that.
Do either of you do anything with like model homes or spec homes, or is it just your clients contacting you that have purchased a property they want to build on? Can you talk a little bit more about that process?
Yeah, it kind of goes either way. I haven't really done a lot of spec things currently because we've kind of, since I launched my business, we've been busy with a lot of the projects, and it's just kind of worked. Really, I've kind of just jumped from one thing to the next as we've grown. Being a first generation, I've kind of learned a few things, not the hard way, but a few things just what works for us and what doesn't. We actually, that being said, I've got a lot right now that when COVID hit, we didn't know what was going to happen. So we were going to build a spec house, and we still plan to start it. I've got the permit, but just to speak to that, I mean, I think I got that in June, or maybe it was in June, and I still haven't been able to start it just because we've been swamped with things that have been, we thought COVID was going to shut everything down, but really a lot of people have wanted to expand their homes, working out of their homes, living in their homes. So we've just kind of been putting my project on the back burner, but we'd like to do the spec thing too, just so we can get creative in our own right. But we're just about to, for me, begin that chapter, I guess.
Dan, is there anything you want to add to that?
We did dabble in the spec game for a little while. So when we first started, I got out of the Air Force in 2006, and we moved back here and started the company as a custom home building company, and built one spec house, and then the recession hit, and sat on that spec house for 2 years and had to write a check for about $80,000 to get out from underneath of it. So I was a little soured on spec from the very beginning due to the recession, and then learned to remodel, and that I like remodeling, and I like working on other people's money, if that makes sense. Most of the time on a remodel, it versus a speculation, all the time on a remodel versus speculation, they're paying you as you go, if not up front. And on custom homes, same way. They're paying you as you go. It's sold already. A house on speculation, you're building and then turning over to somebody else. From what I understand, a lot of folks that build spec will do so because they want to, you know, they want to build what they want to build so they can express their creativity, do that kind of thing. Or they don't care for the micromanagement that the customer can provide sometimes. So they build something, stick it out there that's sold, and they don't have to interact intimately with the customer. I don't mind the customer. We kind of prefer that, and I think I'm a little less risk tolerant from that standpoint. So we tend to do all custom or pre-sold or remodeling from that standpoint.
So can you talk a little bit more about like that customer service, that interaction with the customers and how that works? Are they coming to you with ideas, or do you provide that with them?
Yeah, for us, we're design build. So our model is set up to help people figure out what it is we're going to build, do all the planning, all the project development, and then actually build it. So within the skilled trades, it's not just swinging a hammer or pulling wire. We rely on people that work for, say, the plumbing supply company, that know all the plumbing fixtures, how they work, and help us get the right fixtures for the customer. Same with lighting, same with heating and cooling. So there's ways to work in the trades that are not outside, wearing a tool belt all the time. But from our standpoint, we want to be involved from the very beginning to help the customer figure out what it is they're going to build, and then put the budget together as we go. We have a person that's full-time doing that for us in our company. She manages customer expectations and helps put together budgeting. She does all of our estimating for us, and works hand in hand with the customer that way. She did not come from a skilled trades background. Her and her husband owned a landscaping company, but was interested, had the personal skills, and she's good with details, which is important. Working in the trade. So you can work in and around construction and not necessarily be one creating with your hands if that's not what you're motivated to do.
So Dan, I see, but I think you're at your trailer, and you kind of mentioned this before, is what kind of tools do you need to get started for your job site?
Okay.
Are there things that you provide or that your subs have? So just what kind of tools do you have?
Sure. Could you flip back so I can see what you're seeing? I thought we were on the slide. I'm sorry. There we go. Glad I didn't go to the restroom. All right. So we run two tool trailers that we keep all of our tools in. Here's an example of one that we're replacing pretty soon because it's getting a little beat up. But in general, it's everything a carpenter needs to build or remodel a home from the carpentry end of things. So fixing things with wood is kind of the carpentry skill set. Whether that's rough framing, which a good example would be how we put together this porch, or if it's trim carpentry, where you're installing doors, cabinetry, all that stuff, which is a later phase in here. So inside it's a little scary. Yeah, it's not too bad. Trim saw. So for finer cuts, we've got, that's a $600 saw there. Just to give you an example. Table saw to go with it. We run a lot of cordless tools. So they were using this for siding yesterday. Really handy because you can use it up on a ladder. Kind of a full arrangement of nailers, depending on what you want to do with. Framing nailer, you're going to have bigger nails, bigger, heavier, bulky gun. As you get a bit more refined, that's for shooting on baseboard, so a bit bigger trim. As you get to smaller trim, step down to smaller nails. And then if you're doing really fine work, we've got what's called a pin nailer, which actually shoots teeny tiny little pins. There's not any in there. They're literally the size of a sewing pin. So you can hardly see the hole they make, which is pretty cool. So one of the cool things about trim is you're trying to make it perfect. And you're the last phase, so you have the most control over it that way. Otherwise, another chop saw. So similar to that one down there, but not as precise, more for rough cuts. You also notice in construction that precision increases the closer to the end you get. Concrete masonry work is not quite as critical, but by the time you get down to trim, you're using a fine point pencil and measuring by the 32nd of an inch. So a little bit of where you fall in there depends on how much precision you want to play with. They're both important, and there's nothing wrong with either end of it. It's just kind of what you enjoy doing. Also in here, a lot of cords. We run a lot of pneumatic tools, big air compressor. We try to keep things as tight as we can, keep our inventories together. A lot of our ability to get our work done is to have the right tool on the job when we show up. Job site radio, most of the time the guys will have that out, but for a remodel, we don't want to be blasting Metallica in the middle of a dog surgery like's going on right now inside, or a cat. I don't know what was on the table, but that's an example of just being sensitive to the customer that way. But you'll see our guys. I probably personally talk to them about twice a week. Our production managers talk to them every day, but they'll have a lot of autonomy. You know, they know what they're supposed to do. They go do it, and they don't get micromanaged a whole bunch. And you'll see a job site trailer for our HVAC contractor on the job. Same sort of approach. Our electricians work out of a van, which is fairly common for electricians and plumbers. So just materials and everything. Those folks need to do their job.
So both of you had mentioned your education, and Nick, you mentioned you went to Kirkwood. So do you need to have a college degree to go into this field, or can you go right into this with just some on-the-job training? Can you talk a little bit more about that?
Yeah, there's a ton of jobs in this business that do not require college education. I wanted to do that. I wanted to experience that. But I tell a lot of people sometimes, I mean, maybe you need to get into this before you decide. I guess what I'm trying to say, I had a lot of friends that went right into the university and then changed so many times what they wanted to do. So for me, and I don't know if it's the right example to set for everybody, but going to Kirkwood was so amazing because I focused exactly on what it was I wanted to do, even being in there and knowing I wanted to do construction management, which then I came to learn, okay, well, maybe I need to take some entrepreneurial classes, but I was doing it at Kirkwood at a lot better price point, if that makes any sense, a lot more, it was a lot hands-on. It was exactly kind of what I want to do. And then I could grow from there because when I was done, I had at Kirkwood, I think I could have taken another year at Iowa with some intense courses if I really wanted to get, you know, a full degree beyond the associates. But I think what I've got was just helpful, and it maybe gives a little bit of credibility. But no, to answer your question, really, I think some of the carpenter friends I knew had some more on-site skills that I was lacking because I had been off doing that. But on the other end of that, the estimating, the drafting, just the other parts of it, I had really enhanced because it was you know, it furthered my education that way. So I think there's pros and cons of both, but I really enjoyed the time that I had in school, just getting out on my own and experiencing that as well. So.
Are there any classes in high school or any skills our high school students watching can start working on now, or any classes you suggest they take?
And I'm trying to remember what the name of it was at the time, but it was a program that I was in that at the time I think Ron Venhorst was still teaching, where we kind of, gosh, I can't even think of the name of it anymore, but it was a lot of vocational based things, and we would get out, and I actually got credit to work when I was working for Terry Knudsen. I was a junior and senior starting out. And so I think about noon every day I'd leave, I'd actually get paid, and he'd sign my time card, and it would go towards the school credit. And so that was fun because it was something I really did enjoy doing. And then, you know, it gave me that kind of, that launch into the business and trades. And so that was what I did. I know they've brought back some of the automotive stuff, which I think is big just in life lessons, you know, I mean, knowing how to change a tire, things like that a lot of kids I know for a while didn't know. And my little brother said they brought that back after I had left. And so I think that stuff's helpful. I welded a little bit. I'm not a welder, but I like knowing how to do that, you know.
And then Mary just added a comment that I'll read it. She just says, Nick brings up a good point that community colleges are a good starting point that can be more affordable. And then you can set yourself up to transfer to a 4-year. And then Kirkwood is in Cedar Rapids for those students that may not be aware.
I have a question for Dan. You talked about that, and your background was a 4-year with a completely what seemingly is a non-construction major. Why did you choose that, and then what made you go into construction?
Fair question. Thank you. This is actually my second career. So out of high school, I went to the Air Force Academy, which is a military college with the purpose of putting you into the Air Force. So I spent 4 years at the Air Force Academy, and then I spent 9.5 years active duty in the Air Force. I was an aircraft maintenance officer, so responsible for managing, supervising aircraft maintenance, fixing airplanes. I worked on A-10s, F-111s, F-15s, a lot of cool stuff like that. And then they also sent me back to grad school so I could go back to the academy and teach. So I value education. It's a bit of a career student in some ways. And honestly, it doesn't matter whether you're getting a degree associated with it or not. I think it's important to value education. For our team, we take the International Builders Show every year, and we go through a lot of classes and training there just to stay up on different construction techniques and practices. We're the only certified passive house builders in Iowa, which is the strictest energy standard for residential in the world right now. So we pride ourselves in just knowing what we're doing. So for me, in the Air Force, I got the undergraduate bachelor's degree in political science because that's what I was interested in. And I knew I had a job in the Air Force, so I didn't have to worry a whole lot about what my degree was in. I was able to study what I was interested in. They sent me back to grad school to get a master's of science in political science to qualify me to go teach. So again, I had a job. I was just getting the training to go with that job. And I enjoyed American government, so that's what I did. Along the way, they also paid for a significant portion of my business degree. And I knew at some point I wanted to transition into the real world doing something else. And education's free, might as well take it. So that's why I got my business degree, thinking now I'm going to start my own business. I know what I'm doing. Well, come to find out what they teach in business school, it applies, but not till you've been out in the real world for a while. Basic concepts are the same for any business, but figuring out how to apply it at the micro level where we're at took me 6 or 7 years, honestly, to kind of get my feet on the ground and figure out how to make money doing what I'm doing. So I wouldn't consider myself a carpenter. I'm an adequate trim carpenter. I'm an adequate woodworker. I'm an adequate plumber, not great at electrical work. I can roof. Kind of a jack of all trades, grew up in a pig farm. So I went into construction because that seemed to be something that I enjoyed doing. I was interested in doing when I was in the Air Force. I had a handyman service on the side where I talked people into letting me fix things for them to gain experience and a little cash. But more than anything, I wanted to start a business where I worked with people that did know what they were doing to create and build. I really enjoy taking something and making it into something it wasn't. Remodeling, like this old building is going to have new life that'll serve this business for the next 30, 35 years. When you put a new house in the ground, and especially this time of year, you turn the furnace on, it's likely that house is going to stay warm for the rest of its life. You know, because of what we do, we build these structures, families live in them. They're embraced by just the society we live in. And that's fun for me. I like that a lot. So the way I've built my business is I'm not the world's best trim carpenter, but maybe I can find the world's best trim carpenter and work with them. I'm not the best project manager. I'm pretty good at selling stuff, so that's what I do in my business. And I'm pretty good at managing finances and strategic planning, that kind of stuff. But you saw Travis in the yellow mask. He's a much better people person than I am. He's project manager. He works with our carpenters. He has a college degree from Pella, started as a carpenter right out of college because it paid the bills and found he likes it, and has transitioned from a line carpenter, trim carpenter, into he owned a cabinet shop, partial owner for 10 years. And then he's been on board with us for about 5 now as a project manager. He still does some hands-on, kind of gets stuck with the hard jobs that nobody else can figure out that require that 20-year skill set. But he also, when it's cold out, sits in front of his computer and plans for the next project. So he's got some flexibility to preserve his body for time and work with his brain as well. So my path, probably not the most direct path, but it's a second career for me. And education, I will tell you, is important no matter how you get it, whether it's got a degree associated with it or not. Knowing how to weld is important. Knowing how to change a tire is important. Knowing how to figure things out is probably most important.
So Nick, can you talk about some apprenticeship opportunities that are available, what age you hire students, and if you offer any apprenticeships, how that works?
Yeah, so, and it's kind of come a little bit up in the air this last year because of the COVID. I had a student, I think he was just 16, that was working with us, in his off time. And when this started happening, I just didn't know what was going to come of it. So I'd like to get back into that because I'm always trying to find good help through the high school. And I need to put more back out there because I guess now that we've kind of realized that this is become a way of life, living, and we found a good way to try to social distance safely and to do our jobs. But before this hit, I had a student that I haven't been able to really ask to come back yet, because I didn't know what this is all going to bring. But I'd like to get that going again, and I'd like to just get all kinds of young people interested in this, because I think that there's just a lot of job opportunity out there, and there's a lot of there's a real need in our community, especially for good trades. And it's just, I guess my point in doing a lot of this too, and speaking with you guys, is just to get, you can have a really, really successful career in this business if you want to work hard in it. And I'm not saying that you have to grind yourself down. I mean, I've done that. We've all done that in this business, but you can do it, and you can work smart and hard, and hopefully get to a point where you've done that, in your younger years, and be able to kind of train other people in this business. I know one of the teachers that was huge for me at PV, and I mentioned his name before, was Ron Venhorst, because he was a builder and a teacher, and he was able to kind of build one house a year through his summer, his time off, and then be able to educate. And he just, he was one of those guys that was just very humble, but really, to me, and as a student, I learned a lot from, because he was into the craft on all sides, and he was willing to work with the students. So, I mean, I see that, looking at that as an outsider, like, he kind of had a good system set up there. He was kind of had the healthcare and the things from the school, and was able to, help teach, and then got to build as well and put product out there. So.
Nick, I have two questions, actually, for both Nick and Dan. I have two questions. One, Nick, you had mentioned about COVID, and what is the impact on there? And then two, Nick, you mentioned that you went to PV. Dan, can you tell us too where you went to high school, and those the impact of high school for you?
I guess I start with that. So yeah, I'd gone to PV. The COVID for the business, and that's what I didn't know. I was like, are we going to get? I think no one did in the beginning. Are we going to get shut down 100%? Are we what's going to come of this? That's why we bought the spec lot, because like, at least I could just build, and be away from other clients. But what I found is kind of a little bit, it did hunker down for a while, but we were busy with projects that we already had. We stayed committed to. I feel like, the clients, everything, we maybe did more with a text message instead of face-to-face, and not knowing in the beginning, where it's actually come to a point where it's like, you felt like you got in with your clients, they felt comfortable, and they knew you were only seeing your family, and they were only seeing theirs. So it's kind of like they became part of our social network, I really did find it, and it was kind of nice, because it's like, we all kind of felt like if everybody did their thing and stayed, did their part, we kind of could work together, and that worked pretty well. And then obviously recently, with this huge resurgence, it's kind of like, well, if it wasn't a job we already had set up, we've done, everything's been kind of Zoom based. I've met with clients, new clients that want to build new homes. There's a few that we've got in the design process and haven't even actually met face to face yet. So it'll be nice to be able to do that. So that's been different. And in the beginning as well, we were doing some demo projects where we were dealing with asbestos, mold, all the key things, mouse waste, which can be very dangerous. And we couldn't get masks. So it was hard to do our job on the other side too, because of the COVID. So hopefully that helps explain your question a little bit, but yeah.
Yeah, from our standpoint, COVID-wise, we came in to COVID with two projects that were ongoing. One was a new house, which was pretty good, because we didn't have to be directly involved with anybody, or close proximity. We stretched out the schedule a little bit to allow not as much overlap between trades. So the plumber wasn't there when the electrician was there, so on and so forth. We were also in somebody's kitchen, had torn apart their kitchen and their bathroom about halfway through that project. We worked with them and put up more plastic, wore more masks, wipes a bunch of stuff down, and we were able to get through it. Had to work with the city on inspections, because they weren't inspecting real time, so we had to document via video and phone and picture, all that kind of stuff. So I don't know, COVID has changed the way we do things short term, but the core of what we do is still the same. Just like anything, if we're working in a project that had a lot of bat guano, we're putting respirators on, we're wearing protective gear, so we don't take that home. COVID's kind of the same way. It's just another hazard we have to deal with. I'll quick jump on that high school question before I turn it back. I went to Wilton High School. So Wilton is north of Muscatine, If you're coming from the Quad Cities, it's like Walcott, Durant, Wilton, West Liberty. So small town, class of 57. And like I say, out of high school, I went into the military. So my path there was a little different. But at the same time in high school, I did have woodworking classes. I took the welding classes for shop. And they weren't necessarily on the college track, because back then we didn't value trades like we do today. And that's part of the thing we're trying to overcome. I took those classes because I was interested in them. Grew up on a pig farm and wanted to know how to do things, not because they were what were going to get me into college, more so. Now I think we're finally evolving to the fact that knowing how to do things is valuable, and we're recognizing that. So what do you do for a living? I'm a plumber. It's not, I'm just a plumber. No, you're a plumber, and that's valuable. And I know at our high school now, that message is coming through much clearer. I saw that we, I think, had 2 people go to community college. Was it up in Ellsworth? I forget, for carpentry, which is the first I'd seen in the last 10 years or so. People leaving high school with the intent to train and go into carpentry, not just ended up there because they spent 2 years of college and didn't know what they were going to do. So that's a viable career path that we're seeing now.
Did you have another question, Mary, or?
No, that was it. Thanks.
Okay, yep.
I see that there's a question in the chat.
Yeah, so the next question is from a student, Anselm, and he asked, do you have shops? So I'm assuming by that question, if you, maybe like an office or a shop that you build things out of first, is that what you're meaning by that?
Kelsey, he's on here, so maybe he can elaborate on it a little bit.
Great.
You may just ask the question.
Yeah, go ahead.
I was asking whether or not, like, do you have like a shop, or are you just out of your trailer? Are you based somewhere? Or?
Yeah, great question. We've had both. When we first started, it was off my kitchen table and out of the garage. Most of what we do is taking it to the homeowner in our trailers. That said, we do have a proper shop and office. As the business got bigger and we needed places for people, our shop is actually in the haymow of an old barn. We moved the barn to our property and converted it so it's modern, finished space. We bring customers in and do the design work, and then our team works out of there. Shop underneath is as much of a small project or a staging of stuff. You know, that's where you go get the vanity to take to the bathroom job, as opposed to, say, a cabinet shop that might have a full set of tools and people working in there every day. We're not set up like that. We have basically mobile shops through the trailers. We take different places. Electricians and plumbers are very similar, the ones that we have here. They have basic shops, but not somebody working in them full time. How about you guys, Nick?
Yeah, we've so this is my wife's shop. This is her office. She does the accounting, billing, the you know, kind of the manages a lot of email stuff for me, and then our family as well. That's one thing that for me that's been beneficial. I don't have anything as cool as an old barn, but our shop is actually at our home. So I have what's called a FlexCore floor system in our garage. So I've got a 1,000 square foot garage above where we bring the trailers in the winter and the things that's heated. And then below that, the FlexCore is 8 inches of concrete with pre-stressed cables through it. So it's like a parking garage. So below that, I've got a set of stairs you go down, and that's our shop is in there. So we've got a full set of tools. And then in this business, we collect, people call me a hoarder, but it's materials that we're going to use again. It's everything from fans, if we've had a job that's had water, to heaters. I mean, it seems like literally just a mess, but we have to have somewhere to go with the stuff and keep it. Covenants in these neighborhoods get stricter and stricter, so I can't just leave the stuff outside. So we've got all kinds of that type of stuff down there, tiling from things, stuff that probably, yes, will never get used again, but I just don't have the heart to throw it out. So down there in the wintertime, we're able to build cabinets. It's got its own garage door. So that one picture you guys put up on my bio is actually the back of my home, and that's the lower entry to that shop. So I can open, there's now a garage door there. I can open the garage door. We can load the cabinets that we built in the wintertime. Hopefully the snow isn't, you know, too deep, and take them out. The biggest benefit for us to have our shop on site at home is I have 3 kids under 5 now, and I love being able to put them to bed and go down and work in the space below and be at home. And then also, and I know you guys hear this a lot as kids, like, oh, you can write it off. Well, we can write off spaces in our home for tax purposes. So the shop is part of our house, where the power, the gas, electric to run it, and then using the space as an office, we can write off on the business side. So that helps with taxes, where we get that back. And I know that, and it's something I'm still learning more on, but it's been beneficial to learn. And the same with our office as well, and our internet. Being at home, we can help write off some of the costs of our internet in our home office to go towards that as far as the business goes. So yeah, we've got a shop, we got it at home. I don't have guys staff there like Dan kind of mentioned. It is just for our use and employees' use. We're building things and creating for each project. So.
Great question, Anselm. So as a builder, I'm sure you have to be familiar with like the building codes. So how do you get started learning that and stay up to date with all of those?
So that is one thing that was, I think, my biggest. I took a lot of tests in school, in high school and in college, but the most challenging test was my licensing. And because the books, I'm not a huge reader, the books are multiple hundred pages, and there was 3 different ones that I had to read to test to get which would be my general carpenter's licensing for the state of Iowa. So that I kind of went through that. I had to get it quick for a project, so I tried to just go take it, right? I thought I was going to pass it because I knew a lot about the construction business. Well, I was really wrong. There was so much information in there that maybe didn't affect me on a daily basis, but it was important for maybe here and there. So I had to go back. I failed that test. I had to go back, my tail tucked to the client and say, hey, I need to retest. And so I read those books, the code books that is, and retested. It felt good to have that passed and have that and maintain that license now, because I'm credible in the state of Iowa to almost any jurisdiction with that general contractor's license. And as far as to stay current with that, really being in the business, and then even joining and being part of the Home Builders Association now, and being on the board there, you really you stay up to date, because a lot of times when a code is going to change, it may take 4 or 5, 6 years to adopt that code. So we're usually pretty well versed in what's current and then what's about to come. And to be totally honest, there's stuff that we miss, but that's why we have inspections. And it's not like you get in trouble. You make the correction, and you learn from that. And I think that's a big misconception in this business is the inspectors. And if you're honest with them and you get on their level, you're gonna fail inspections. You're gonna teach each other things, and you're gonna have a good relationship with them. And I think that at the end of the day, if you can build that reputation with them that you're putting a good product out, life can stay pretty easy with that. So.
And is there anything you want to add
Yeah.
to that?
Yeah, what I think is interesting, you must work in Davenport, Nick? Is that the test you had to take, was a Davenport registration? Because until I did work in Davenport, I didn't take any sort of test to be a general contractor to pull permits. I was interesting. A lot of the rural jurisdictions don't even have code enforcement. So a lot of the decisions we make on how to build things are based more on what we know the code wants and what's going to work over time, so our liability is low. I mean, the liability scares me more than code. So I wouldn't let a test be a challenge to you. In some jurisdictions, you have to take it, but to start as a carpenter, not at all. You work your way up to that. Even project managers, for the most part, don't have to have that contractor's registration. So how do we stay on top of what we need to know? My strategy is to hire people that know things that I don't, to a great extent. So plumbers are responsible for plumbing to code, electricians for electrifying to code, if you will. So they know the ins and outs of their specifics, and that means that I, as a general contractor, I don't have to have all of the knowledge on every skill set. I need to know enough to know if it looks right or doesn't, but I don't have to know everything. And then we just ask questions. Most of the time, a project will include a plan review with the city, like City of Walcott here. Their city office, you can probably see it's just right down the road there. We had plans drawn up. We worked with an architect in this situation to figure out how it was going to come together. And then we just went to them and said, this is what we're thinking of doing. Do you see any concerns? Because believe it or not, every inspector's interpretation is different. There's not a lot of black and white, really. So we worked with the city planner and the inspector to figure out what was important to them, what we were missing, and then we just do it. It's not that big of a deal. There are situations where we want to do things, especially on the high performance building end of the world, that are code legal but non-standard. So sometimes we are educating the building inspectors on how we can do it in compliance with code, and they'll look into it and say, okay, that makes sense, go for it. So that's kind of interesting. We take a little bit of leadership role on that, but otherwise, a lot of it's pretty straightforward, and you just have to communicate with the building inspectors.
So we do have another student question, and they ask, what are your safety guidelines? So I'm sure parts of what you do are dangerous. So what are some things you do to stay safe?
That's a great question, actually. We have a formal safety program, which is probably the first thing. Just acknowledge that you need to talk about safety to stay safe. So every Monday morning, we have a meeting with our production team, and we have a safety topic. We have a binder full of topics. They say that the #1 cause of accidents on a job site are falls, and often it is falling off something less than 2 foot high, believe it or not. So we talk about a ladder safety for a day, share experiences, sign off the piece of paper to document it. And that, I guess the first step is to identify those challenges and then make it okay to talk about safety in your company. So if, the carpenter helper sees his boss technically climbing a ladder that's not safe, he can say, hey, let me fix that for you. I don't want you to fall. And we help keep each other that safe that way. Specifically, we wear eyeglasses when we're using power tools. We use respirators when we're in a dusty situation. Proper footwear, masks, all those sorts of things help keep us safe. Probably the other thing is tool safety. I'd open the tool trailer, but it's making a lot of noise right now. Greg, one of his additional responsibilities in addition to project management is maintenance of tools. So we have a process set up. If there's something wrong with a tool, it goes to Greg. He figures out, can we fix it? Can we reuse it? Or do we need to replace it? So simply having somebody with that responsibility helps make sure that the cords are good and the blades are sharp, and when we use the tools, they're going to be safe for us.
Nick, do you have anything to that you want to add?
Yeah, Dan's got a good structure with his system. We kind of the same thing. We've got a small handbook that's kind of changing as needed. And then we do monthly, my wife's put together a program where we'll do $10 to $15 gift cards to like Home Depot, whatever, so that people can add tools to their bags, which would be their tools that they wear every day or whatever they choose. So we try to make a little incentive program with that for safety, and now I think this year we'll probably have to add a line in our safety book about COVID, and just making sure that you feel healthy coming to work, and that you're taking precautions as you're in other people's homes a lot of times, and or spaces, businesses, things like that. We one job, for instance, and I know it's maybe different than safety, but really it is kind of just safety in today's age. Is we had some people doing pre-sale for a gym that we were working on. So we may be in our unit that we're together, weren't wearing masks at every moment. Then when these new people would come in for this pre-sale that wanted to join this gym, we put our masks on, respect them being in the space as well. So it's just kind of getting used to that as it's changed as well. So, and we try to do things. We all talk to each other about the significance of thing and situational. When I'm up on a ladder or pick, I always, like, it's no reason to keep a secret, right? It's like, well, when I'm on a platform, which would be up in the air, and a platform's typically 12 inches long, I usually wear a shoe where I can feel what's under my foot instead of a big boot. And then I always stand with my toes hanging off the front, because I know I have about 3 inches behind me on that plank, so that I always know where I am on that plank. That's just something mentally that I do that tries to keep me safe, because I've worked around people that have had things, they've fallen off planks. So like, it's just knowing that that's there, but I don't want to freak anybody out, because it's just there's being afraid of heights, and then there's respecting heights. And I respect heights. I know what can happen. So we try to just, if you feel off for the day or you're in your ear or something, don't get up on the ladder. you know, don't do that. Do a different task, because there are days when you just don't feel up for it. So, you know, you can totally work not risk free, but safely, or, you know, I mean, it's just, you kind of see a little bit of everything, I guess.
So we do have just a few minutes left here. So if there are any students with any questions you're just burning to ask in these last few minutes, now's your time to go ahead and ask those. So feel free to either put them in the chat or unmute yourself at this time to ask those. So I'll keep an eye on that chat here for the minute. But as you're thinking of those or typing those in right now, the information you see up here on the screen does have some more resources for students, so feel free to take a picture of that with your phone or copy the links down there for more information that you've learned during this presentation.
I would also say my information is available through Julie at the QCBR. If anybody has specific questions or would, you know, give me a shout, send me an email, shoot me a text. More than happy to talk to anybody interested in what we do or how we do it. Just reach out, no problem.
Yeah, and I believe Julie's information has been added to the chat there. So for students, feel free to write that information down and get in contact with Julie, and she can connect to you.
Also, if Dan or Nick want, I can add your emails to this chat if you'd like.
I got a question.
Go ahead.
Where do you guys do most of your work?
I'm currently around the Quad Cities, I guess. I try to stay in a small vicinity because it makes it simpler for, you know, the different jobs. I've got about 4 different things going on right now between Bettendorf and Davenport. But that being said, we've got a remodel in DeWitt, Iowa right now that was kind of, I work a lot with Eldridge Lumberyard, so clients come into them and then they'll refer me to, you know, if it's a job that's going to fit well with each other. So that particular job we took on is in DeWitt, but we'll kind of go wherever, but we've stayed pretty busy right in Bettendorf. It's close to where I'm at.
We tend to work anywhere within an hour of our shop. So we're in Wilton. That puts us about 40 minutes to downtown Davenport, 40 minutes to downtown Iowa City. The majority of our work right now is either Muscatine or the rural area near us. Walcott is a great example, or in the Iowa City, Coralville, North Liberty area. We've found that with the design build services and the highly professional front end, that we relate very well to kind of the white collar educated crowd up there in Iowa City that doesn't necessarily know how to fix a roof, but they know the roof needs fixed, and they'll just let us do it, which works well for us. We do, when we're building high performance, since we're the only ones really in Iowa that build to that level, we'll go a bit farther. We built a home in Dubuque. We just finished a home in Des Moines. We've just finished a home up near Cedar Rapids. So we'll extend our reach a little bit further for those sorts of things. But in general, our carpenters are driving between 20 minutes and 40 minutes to get to the job site, depending on where we're working and whether they live in Wilton or Muscatine.
So with that, we are out of time. So again, just want to thank to Nick and Dan for taking time out of your busy schedules to share this information with the students. Again, the information is on the screen if you would like more information. So thank you so much, everyone, for joining us.
Thank you.
for
Good luck.
organizing.